Good morning, commuters. It's another beautiful day on Woodby Island. The 520 ferry down at Clinton. Well, there's not much of a line down there on this Saturday. However, if you're heading towards Seattle, you can plan on a little drizzle and a little fog from the beautiful weather we're having up here on Woodby Island. Woodby Island, of course, is about 60 miles north of Seattle, so we do get a little bit of a different weather situation up here. Lots going on this Saturday if you're coming north to get away from that drizzle and fog down in Seattle. A lot of things going on the island preparing for the centennial Washington year. At Mukilteo, there is no line, so as you're coming north, heading toward the Clinton Ferry to get on the island, you shouldn't have any problem. Of course, today, no Boeing shuffle is involved. Fishermen? Lots of fishermen are out around the island today. We've been hearing them say they've been catching lots of things, especially in Deception Pass. Of course, this last summer, with the over 100,000, you may not have gotten to Deception Pass State Park, but the 100,000 are gone, so there's lots of room to get into Deception Pass State Park.
It all started about 6 o'clock in the morning when I sent him off on a detail, 5:30 of a possible intoxicated driver at the ferry dock. The ferry workers had called me and said that the guy was definitely should not go on the boat, and they were going to hold the boat for just a few minutes if they could till we arrived. We got there fairly shortly. We were close by. Driver's license? Got a complaint of an intoxicated driver down here. Darren Huntington? Yeah, that's him, all right. Darren, what are you doing drinking this time of day? It's too early or too late. I got drunk this afternoon. Let us know away, okay? No, you talk to the car. You step out of the car, we're going to run some field sobriety tests, Darren. Why? I'm not drunk. Just do the test, Darren. Don't give us a hard time. Let's step back here. Come on. Get away from the car. And stand. Put your heels together. Like you're standing at attention. All right? Let's close your eyes. Tilt your head back. All right? Use the tip of your right index finger. I want you to touch your nose. All right. Good. Put it down there. All right. Tip of your left index finger. Touch your nose. All right. Doors and heel to toe. All right, Dan. Turn around and go back the other way. Let's open your eyes. I'm going to have you walk towards me heel to toe. You can do that? Right. I got the camera. Right like this. All right? When I tell you turn around, I want you to turn around and go back the other way, heel to toe, same way. You go ahead and take the boat. All right. Darren, you're under arrest for driving while intoxicated. I'm not drunk. Come over here and put your hands in the car, Darren. What do you want done with the car, Darren? We can either park it or I can have it towed. I don't want it in impound, but I want to park it over there. Okay. Give me your left hand. The other hand. Mr. Hefner on that car. Right. Sit tight, Darren. We'll all be over in a minute.
John Saxford is 31 years old. He came to this part of the country from Larimer, Colorado, where he has about 7 years' experience as a police officer down there. He's been with us about 6 weeks now. He's been assigned to Bill Heffernan as his field training officer. Bill Heffernan, on the other hand, is 46. His background is a little bit different than the average cop that's assigned. Bill is the father of two as well, with a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old. He's been with us about 9 years. Bill retired from the Navy as a chief petty officer and became involved in our reserve program years ago. And shortly thereafter, in January of '79, he hired on with the department as a jailer. Once he found out that the age limit was no longer a restriction on him, decided he wanted to work patrol. So he competed in the civil service examination and finally made his way to patrol in March of '80. He'll be together with John for about another 6 weeks. I'm sure it won't be any longer than that. John catches on quickly. He should have a good handle on it, and then at that point, he'll be out on his own. When they came into the garage, I could see most of the car from my camera angle on a little black and white 4-inch monitor. Its resolution isn't very good, so I can't make out a lot of detail, but what I recall seeing was Saxford got out of the driver's side and Heffernan got out of the passenger side. Saxford went up and put his gun away, and Heffernan went into the breathalyzer room to turn the machine on. And they were kind of strolling in a quiet, early morning hours way that was indicated to me there was nothing out of the ordinary going on. Certainly not a combative situation. From there, Saxford came back and opened up the door, and I recall seeing Hutchinson get out of the car and was proceeding in a normal manner with Saxford just held the door and he got out, so I could tell there was no problem at that point. And the monitors in our room are not on all the time. It's a system where you have to deactivate the monitor that you've got up in order to enable the rest of the system to be operative. So at that time I did that so that I could go about my other rounds that I have to do on the mid-shift, and was not able to view them.
Shut up, Darren. Marty.
I'll give it to you at 5. No, sorry, it's 5. That's about right. Yeah, 5:18. 5:18. What time did I notify you to do that? You were just around 5:42. Around the stereo, 5:31. Okay. That's how many drivers you got. It was the same.
Right. Give me a hard copy. Okay. Okay, fine.
Keep when you're supposed to do that. Stand up and I'll take your hands up there.
Comes by the garage door on his way into the office. My relief was John Schwanker, and John's a retired Navy guy. He's got a lot of character, a real neat person to have in your office. We'd joked back and forth in the past about patrol car, the garage door being dropped down at the top of a patrol car, and when he saw that the garage door was askew, he assumed that is what had happened, and he pushed the button, which lets me know that there's somebody down there in front of the garage door, and I brought up that monitor. And he said something to me like, well, I guess they finally did it, huh? And when I brought up the camera, I could see him in the outside of the garage in one camera, and the other side of it was the inside of the garage. That's what both came up when I activated the monitor for where John was at. And I first looked at where he was at in the monitor, and it looked as if there was something wrong with the camera because the garage door was kind of at askew. You know, perhaps the horizontal hold was stuck in between positions or something. And my eyes drifted over to the other monitor.
I need an ambulance. To the sheriff's office now.
Because it was kind of an unusual call, we didn't have all the information immediately, as most calls go. It just was response back to the sheriff's department, and that's kind of out of the ordinary. So I immediately called in, checked with the dispatcher. And you walk in, you find two guys laying there in a pool of blood with no signs of life.
And, it was just a hellish hour of calling people at their home, the administration, letting them know that at that time we only knew that one was dead for sure, and we didn't know about the other one. So to tell them a friend of theirs was dead, and that they didn't need to respond to the office. And that was one of the hardest things to go through because everybody thought I was joking. I had a couple of them kind of say, yeah, right, and hang up, and then call me back in a couple minutes because I woke most of them up and say, you're not kidding, are you? No, I'm not. I don't joke about it, And I'm not... I'm pretty serious about my work in general. I don't joke around, hand out false details on anything. They'd have no reason to think that I would do anything like that. But it's the mind not willing to able to accept it for the first minute or so. Just to receive a call like that. They were all really shocked by it. I think there was only one or two of them that thought I was serious at first.
I woke up. It was, in the vicinity of 6 in the morning on a weekend. And I got a call. And I can't recall, I didn't recall, I go back in the tape, exactly what was said. But I remember in my mind as I jumped out of bed and threw some clothes on, the facts that I thought I understood were that there'd been an officer-involved shooting, somebody was down. And I guess the defense mechanism of denial or whatever set in almost instantly because in my own mind, I felt like, my God, one of the guys had to kill somebody. It hadn't registered on me that I had somebody, let alone two somebodies, down until I was about halfway here. And it registered, my God, I've got a cop down. Still hadn't registered that he might be dead. It was like that wasn't an acceptable thought until I got here. I pulled up from the garage, and Dr. Z was down there. And he'd been in and checked both men and verified the fact that they were dead. And as I walked up, I remember he just shook his head and looked at me. And I said, they're both gone. I said, who was it? And he told me who it was. And at the time, I guess the only emotion I felt was, damn, because I had a job to do. And I guess the folks that are going to be seeing this will understand that. The adrenaline says, do this. And we went up and I came up to the control center, and the chief and I helped coordinate the rest of the operation. And it didn't really sink in until after he'd been captured and brought in, when my immediate task was finished. And it finally, hit me when I first come up and Dr. Zavarua started to walk into the garage area. Knowing that was a crime scene, my first concern is, don't stir up the crime scene. I didn't realize at the time that he's pretty knowledgeable on how to deal with a crime scene. So I went in with him. And to this day, that's something I wish I hadn't done.
Well, actually, I received a call from the dispatch center shortly after the incident occurred. I believe I was, with the exception of the first aid unit, I was the first person called. And all the way down from my house, which is about a 4.5-5 mile drive, I didn't quite believe that it really happened. I had been chief criminal deputy 10 days before the shooting. I was assigned. Prior to that, I was chief jail investigator. So quite conceivably, it probably was the most single worst thing that's happened to me. Being retired military and serving 2.5 tours in Vietnam, the idea of somebody dying isn't something that's foreign to me. It's strictly a matter of your perception and you know it's going to occur. So the entire drive down, I just quite frankly thought that I'd get here and it would all have gone away. After the shock, then we had to deal with anger, the anger of several officers to go out and get him. That type of a macho, Rambo thing. And it's understandable. But unfortunately, it's not what we're paid to do. It's not our profession. And you have to keep it very professional. You have to eliminate the personal and the professional and two distinct things. And then you have to close the personal off. And that's very difficult to do because you're trying to assume an air of leadership, of control, while at the same time stifling your normal instincts. And that makes it very difficult because those things keep flashing back. You have to understand that Bill Heffernan was my training officer. Well, when I came over here.
There were some pretty moving moments when the administration came in. Chief Gardner and Chief Prost and the sheriff were all in the control room trying to establish where we need to go, make sure the perimeter for the island was secure. And Chief Gardner was talking and communicating with tears running down his face and just trying to control it. You could tell that he was very deeply moved by it. I had controlled all that up to that point. But seeing him do that, I had to fight to keep going. Then we finally took him into custody. I think it was about an hour later.
I patrolled an area that's called Maple Tree Point. I could see tire tracks going in. I thought it might have been the patrol cars. I went from there to the Hutchinson house. So I used the tree for cover, and I drew my sidearm. And I called to Darren. Just as I called him, he opened up the window, and he had a loaded .45 in his hand with a hammer back. He peeked out, and he was talking to me, but didn't know where I was. And we aimed at 45, where I should be coming around the corner of the building. So I drew down on Darren, and I called to him, and I told him, Darren, throw down the 45, throw down the gun. And he said, Tom, I don't want to kill you too. I said, Darren, don't make me kill you, throw down the gun. At that time, he looked over at me, and he said, I'm getting that feeling. He started to pump up red. I'm getting that feeling again, and he was pumping up red. And looked at me, and I told him, I said, Darren, if you bring that gun around, I'll kill you. I told him that. And I was drawn down on him, had sight picture on his head. He threw the gun on the bed and climbed down out of the window like I told him to.
I had dealt with Phil. He was having some problems, and he was all upset one day, and actually threw a shit on my desk. And I talked him down. It wasn't a month or so before this happened. Convinced him to hang in there. I relieved him for the day because he was emotionally upset. I forget even what the problem was about. Got him all back, squared away and back on the road. And it took me a long time to get over the feeling that if I just left well enough alone, he wouldn't be there. I put him back on the road. I don't know if you've noticed walking around a department, the two epaulette buttons on our uniforms, metal buttons, they aren't silver and they aren't gold. They're black. We blackened those two buttons, one for each officer. So I said, gee, that's morbid. No, it's not morbid. Every time you look at your brother officer, you remember that there's two of them that are no longer with you. And the next one might be you if you're not careful. I want him to be frightened a little bit. I want him to remember. I want him to know that, damn it, you're not invincible. Just because you got a badge doesn't mean you're not susceptible. Matter of fact, more so, it makes a dynamite target.
Okay, if you were there, pretend you were there at the garage. From apprehension to the face, without me. I all the way, why didn't I keep fucking respectful and keep my hands away from that fucker? Oh, man. I had too much inside me, and I'm not going to let people control me.
In reconstructing what I know now and having sat through, or at least heard the majority of the testimony in the trial, I doubt very seriously if there would have been a confrontation had there been a complete search at the scene.
I can remember years ago when Bill used to say, well, if anything ever happens to me, half-jokingly, the only thing I ask is, I don't want anything fancy, I want a wake. And he said, I want a lone piper to play Amazing Grace.
They did it for us, for our children, for our liberty. Don't forget it, my friend. May God have mercy. Don't ever forget.